take a look at this map. It's the map of circumcision rates around the world, and it's from the Visual Capitalist website. So if you want to check out the website and the link, it is in the description. Now, the data used to create this map is from 2016. So it's not technically outdated, but it is pushing it close, as usually it's considered at around 10 years for the information to be outdated. Now, what I found interesting, besides New Zealand being totally forgotten about, is that the USA, Philippines, Korea, and Australia are all over 50% and are not predominantly cultures who circumcise due to religious reasons. Considering whether or not to circumcise is a decision that many parents have to make. And you might be debating right now whether or not to circumcise your baby due to non-religious and non-medical reasons. So I'm glad you're here, and I would love to give you 4 questions to consider about whether or not to circumcise your baby. And then at the end, I'm going to share with you how to explain what is circumcision to your young child, as well as how to share your family values. Question number 1, are you choosing circumcision because you want your baby to look like you? I actually hear this quite often from parents who say, I want to circumcise my baby's penis because I want them to look like me. Now, because this is a really common reason that parents tell me that they're considering circumcision, I always tell them to take a pause and think about, when was the last time you compared your genitals to your parents'? Did you ever compare your genitals to your parents'? For the majority of kids, they're not going to get too stressed or worried or upset if their genitals don't look exactly like their parents'. If they do see a difference, they might ask you to explain it, which you can totally do, and I'm going to share with you how to do that in just a moment. Question number 2, do you want to circumcise in order to reduce the spread of HIV and other STIs? Teaching our kids about safe sex, meaning the importance of sexual health checkups, genital hygiene, and condom use, can be a more effective way at preventing the spread of HIV and other STIs than circumcision alone. There have been some studies that have shown to have seen a reduction in HIV and other STIs in some small sample populations in African countries due to circumcision, but the results of these studies do not suggest to routinely circumcise all newborn infants with penises. From these studies, it has been suggested that circumcision can be a health benefit in a handful of scenarios, like if, genital hygiene is low or minimal, or if the person is only engaging in vaginal sex. Therefore, if you really want to avoid your kid from getting HIV or other STIs, talking with them early about the importance of sexual health checkups, genital hygiene, and condom use can be way more beneficial than just circumcising alone. Number 3, are you choosing circumcision because you personally prefer the look of a circumcised penis? When I teach my kids about the human body, I tend to say every body is different. We are all different, and that's what makes us unique. I don't ever say every body is different and some bodies look better than others, and this is what's considered a better looking body. The way a body part looks to one person may be lovely or it may be interesting. But if the aesthetics of the way the penis looks to you is your main motivation for circumcision, I will just remind you that looks are not everything. Question number 4, do you want to continue a family tradition of routine circumcision? I often hear from folks, I'm going to circumcise my baby because I was circumcised and my dad was circumcised, and I think my grandfather was too. This idea is really common, that we're just going to continue routinely circumcising because that's what our parents did, and that's what we've always done. So here's what I tell parents to do when they say this to me. I tell them, if you are not sure why you were circumcised, okay, so if you cannot fill in the rest of the sentence, I was circumcised because, then if you can, go back and ask. Find out what your parents' reasoning was for circumcision. We tend to fall into this I'm just going to continue doing this because this is what we've always done, without ever stepping back and asking why. Why was this done in the first place? You might find out the reason was for STI prevention, or they felt it was just better genital hygiene, or maybe there was a medical complication, or there are religious or cultural beliefs around circumcising. If you're not in a position to go back and ask why they made the choice that they did, think about it this way. If your child was to ask you, why did you circumcise me? What would your response be? This reminds me of a story when I was a sex ed teacher in the classroom and I was teaching a group of 6th and 7th graders basic anatomy and puberty. I had just gone over circumcision and had just finished explaining that circumcised and intact penises can all do the same thing. They just look different. Because at this age, it's all about normalizing the body, making sure they feel comfortable in their body as they start to go through these puberty changes and recognize all these different physical changes that are happening in their body. And that's when one boy raised his hand and asked me, he was like, "Miss, so you're telling me we don't get a choice in whether or not to circumcise our penis? Like our parents just decide this for us?" And I said, "Yeah, it's generally a decision that your parents will make when you're born." And he was like, "That totally sucks." I really felt for him in that moment. And I said to him, "You know what? There are a lot of reasons why circumcision can happen. So if you don't know why your parents chose to circumcise or not circumcise, then just go and ask them. Ask them why they made the choice that they did." And so parents, I would encourage you to think about how you would answer this question if your child grows up and decides to ask you. Feel confident with your decision and explaining why you chose what you chose. So now, how do you explain circumcision to your kid when they notice that their penis looks a little different to their dad's or to that penis in the age-appropriate book about bodies? You can say something to the effect of, "That's really great that you notice the differences in the body. So let me explain why all penises don't look the same." Now, all babies with a penis are born with a piece of skin covering the tip of the penis called foreskin. This foreskin is there to protect the head of the penis to keep debris or infections out. Now, some people may choose to permanently remove this foreskin through a surgical procedure, and that's called a circumcision. So a penis with a foreskin is called an intact penis, and a penis that has had its foreskin removed is called a circumcised penis. Now, here is where they might say, why? Why would somebody choose to remove their foreskin? And here's where you can then talk about the medical reasons why a circumcision is performed, as well as your family values. You can say something to the effect of, "Some people might get an infection in their penis, and they would need a doctor to remove that foreskin in order to treat the infection." While other people might have religious or cultural beliefs that say that the foreskin needs to be removed. In our family, we chose to circumcise or to keep the penis intact, and you then explain your family values around why you made the choice that you did. And don't forget, parents, you're going to remind your kid that all penises, whether they are circumcised or intact, can all do the same thing. They can all urinate, they can all get erections, they can all ejaculate, they can all be hurt if hit or kicked, and they do need to be cleaned on a regular basis for healthy genital hygiene. Now, if you are curious about how to explain taking care of an intact penis, you can check out this video here. Don't forget to like this video if you found it to be somewhat helpful, and please share it with a parent friend or a soon-to-be parent friend if they are in the process of trying to make this decision.